And welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I am your host, Justin Stoddart, and I am excited today to teach you about mindset, but it's not what you've been thinking. It's not what you've been taught over and over. We're not going to talk about your mindset. We're going to talk about the mindset of your client. Yes, this is going to be a very interesting episode for you to really understand how you can grow your business, your level of service, your influence, your impact by, again, getting into the mind of your client. So stay tuned for this amazing episode. Before I introduce today's guest, let me remind you that inside of the Think Bigger Real Estate group on Facebook, we go deep on these topics. We're going to have Kaajal, who I just kind of let the cat out of the bag as far as who our guest is today. But she's going to be even answering questions and being available to help us really kind of understand this topic even at a deeper level. So if you're not yet a member of that group, please join us over there and engage in the conversation. Your learning will go deeper. So back to today's guest. Her name is Kajaal Shahani. She's out of the Silicon Valley area, and she's here again to talk about mindset, not your mindset, but the mindset of your client. Kaajal, thank you so much for coming on to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you've been even featured. Now, you've been a top 1% agent. You've been in the Silicon Valley for 17 years, and you've been featured on HGTV. You've done some very, very cool things. A lot of people watch HGTV. Fewer people are actually showcased on HGTV. How was that experience being on the other side of the camera?
Oh, so fantastic. But you know how, with TV, not everything is real. Remember that. But it was as real as we could probably showcase. It was a first-time home buyer profile, buying in Silicon Valley. So fun topic to watch, I think.
Yeah, super interesting. And what was the name of the show that you were on?
It was My First Place, and it kind of like dating me a little bit. It was like 10 years ago, but My First Place was a very popular show featuring different cities and what you can get for certain price points.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. We've got a mini celebrity here with us today, folks. Kaajal, I want to get into this topic. Again, there's endless amounts of streaming content about mindset. I focus a lot on it just because I know it's the foundational piece of people doing anything, is they have to have their mind right? Hence the Think Bigger Real Estate Show is centered on that. But I don't know that we've ever done a topic on this, which is really getting into the mind of your client. What a fascinating topic. Yes. What made you start to realize that getting into the mind of your clients and where they're at and kind of what purchase they're working on, that this would really unlock lots of opportunity for you to serve at a higher level? When did that kind of aha ring true with you?
I think a lot of what we do as realtors, a lot of it is most of it is psychology. We think that it's more finance driven and what's your price and those kind of things. But if you really think about it, any type of selling is psychology, right? So as we go into first-time home buyer mindset versus second-time home buyer mindset and where they're coming from, their needs are very different, but their emotions are very different as well. So if you speak to a first-time home buyer and you, let's say, lay on the pressure and say you have to buy and this and that, and granted, no one says that, but that sort of feeling is you're going to lose them, right? Because this is the first time they're doing something this large, probably the biggest purchase they're going to make in their life. And so getting into really how they feel about the process, what they want from the process, kind of thinking about their personalities. If it's a single person, you decode the personality of that one person. If it's a couple, if it's a family, all very different dynamic. I say this all the time that I think realtors, half of our job is being our client's therapist. And then we get into selling. So I think it's just natural progression of a realtor as we get into that topic. It's more, okay, what are they thinking? Putting my mindset aside, what are they thinking? And then I can tweak my mindset on how I'm going to serve them.
Boy, that's a beautiful thing right there. I agree with you, Kaajal, that as soon as you get out of your own head, right? Yeah. Oftentimes we think so much about ourselves and how we're showing up and what's in it for us.
Yeah.
That the people that are able to serve the most amount of people will get what they want, right? Zig Ziglar taught us that years and years ago. And it's held true, right? Is that the more that we help other people get what they want, we can get what they want. Yet still in our own minds, we are consumed by what we want.
Yeah.
We might say, like, I'm here to help other people. At the end of the day, we're consumed with our goals, with our ambitions, with what we're trying to accomplish. And what I hear you saying is if we can set that aside and really think about what does my client really want here? And what are they feeling? And what are their fears? And what are their concerns?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, you're positioned to really understand and adopt what they're thinking and feeling
Right.
so that you can better serve them. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you think about it, each client, and I know as a realtor, all of us, we get to know our client really, really, really well through the process. What they need, what they want, their kids' needs, those kinds of things. But if you set out with that feeling and that information first, I find the relationship goes so much more smoothly. They open up to you about things that they probably wouldn't have shared with you if you hadn't asked those questions from the get-go. So a lot of times, my buyer, my first initial meeting is really just getting to know them. Even if we're showing property, it's like asking those certain questions. And granted, it's all natural. It's getting to know the person. But a lot of times it's like they won't open up to you because they just look at you as like in the beginning, if they don't know you, especially if it's not like a referral, they'll look at you very transactional. Um, I don't find our jobs are very transactional. It's kind of a relationship, right? And so getting to know them, getting to know where they're coming from, and kind of what you said, getting to know their fears. A lot of times, this is such a common one. They'll give me a price point. My budget's 1.5, right? In this market in Silicon Valley, in California, I mean, and even out in Oregon, the market's been crazy. The overbidding is insane. The competition is insane. If somebody doesn't have the right mindset to deal with that kind of market, I almost tell them like, hey, let's just pause. Let's put your search on hold because it's going to freak them out. It's going to steer them in directions that are not going to feel good. They're going to make a rash decision because they want to win versus, hey, I want to actually buy this house. So talking them through that, educating them about the market and getting to know how they would react in a competitive market is a good way to kind of decode their mindset before getting started.
I'd love to. I want to get into some specifics today, as far as like what are the concerns that first-time home buyers have and stuff about
Yeah.
buyers, right? But before I do that, I want to make a comment, and I'd love to have you add to it.
Yep.
Is that I think one of the deepest ways to connect with people is to ask them what they want, and then to go deeper and say, "Now, tell me, why is it that you want that?" Right?
Yeah.
Without being creepy, without being too invasive up
Yeah.
front, when you might not know these people.
Right.
But if you can get to not just like what the circumstance is, what it is that they want, but why they want it. Now you're at a deeper level emotionally to
Right.
serve them and to connect with them and to uncover fears and concerns that
Yeah.
may be impeding the entire process,
Yeah.
right? That may cause them to turn around and back out at the last minute after you've spent a month serving them, right? And
Yeah.
or them to back out of the perfect home for no real reason, right? Which would be so sad for everybody involved. And so, are there any very specific questions that you ask that kind of get to start to kind of peel that onion, to uncover
Yeah.
not just what's going on, but why and how they're feeling about that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's very unscripted, right? It's more stuff that I'm so curious about. Um, but 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 the baseline of it, the baseline questions would be, why the move or why the sell, whether it's a buyer or a seller. Where are you going to go from here? If it's a seller, you know where you're going to go. That's a huge question. A lot of people don't want to share, but it's so important to know that, to see. I have a lot of clients that honestly are retiring, downsizing. It's a core of my business. And I want to know, have you chosen your next step? A lot of them have lost, let's say, a spouse and they're empty nesters. There's so much emotion to that you want to know what's driving them out of this house that they've lived in 50 years. A lot of times it's space, but they don't want to. And so you kind of like talk them through. I have a few clients that have sold in the Bay Area and moved to a retirement home in Vegas, retirement home in Arizona. Um, and they are so fun to work with. I absolutely love that mindset of a clientele. And I love going through the journey with them because they're packing up their old stuff. They're, calling their kids to pick up their boxes, etc.
I love
And
that.
oh, bless you. So the mindset of that type of client is very different from, say, someone who's selling a condo or a townhouse and moving up into a single family because their kids are getting older, or perhaps they're having kids. So that's kind of the start of it, is like, why the move, why the purchase, what's driving you? It's kind of taking it back to with us realtors, right? It's like when a coach asks you, what's your why? It's kind of like, I like to ask my clients, what's their why?
Yeah.
Because everybody has a why of what we want to do and why we're doing this. Um, and then second to that is, do they have any life changes coming up that I should know about? Is someone pregnant that you want to share? And it's so crazy how many times they say, oh, we weren't going to mention, but we just found out we're expecting. Well, there's their why. They're having a kid. That's why they're moving. So they have a timeline to their move. I know I have 3 kids. I know by the time the wife is perhaps 5, 6 months pregnant, I'm going to lose them if they don't have a house, and we'll kind of regroup after the kid, comes. So knowing that is so important. So any life changes. I've had a lot of clients, especially during COVID, where they've said, hey, my elderly parents are moving in with us. Perhaps it's something they wouldn't have shared with me. But that kind of goes back to, what kind of house are they looking for? Okay, if your elderly parents are moving in, do you need a bedroom bath downstairs? Do you need minimal stairs? So it just kind of helps me like dream up a house for them. And then I'm steering them into the type of house they need, the type of price point they're going to land into. Sometimes people say, hey, I need a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. My budget is $1 million. And depending on the city, I usually say that's not possible. But why do you need the 4-bedroom, 3-bath? And then we kind of decode it from there. But as many questions as possible. I'd like to say relatively quiet so that they could, just answer the questions openly and freely. And then lastly is kind of their finances, honestly, because I think when somebody comes to me, a lot of them are already pre-approved. They know kind of financially where they need to be, how much down payment they have. Those are kind of like the logisticals. Very, very important. Obviously, I need to know that someone's pre-approved before we start working together. But just getting to know them personally is super important. I have a few clients, honestly, that have special needs kids. Those are the things that I would want to know up front, like what is it in a house that you need because of that scenario. So and then that all funnels into their mindset. I have clients that leisurely start looking, um, and I know the mindset of a leisure buyer is very different from someone who's offer ready. So I don't mind taking the leisure buyers at all. Like it's a great, get your feet wet into the market, see if you're cut out to join this type of market. But I know that mindset is very different from someone that says, I need a house like right now.
Well, I love a couple things that you said, and I want to highlight them. This concept of asking more questions than just what you typically think you would need to know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you expecting? Are there any life changes? I think is how you put it.
Yeah.
Coming that we should know about. And kind of what it brought to my mind, Kaajal, was the fact that you've been down this road countless times.
Yes.
Right? Selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate. The fact that if someone who's buying with a timeline because they're having a baby, you realize that there's a different strategy that's going to need to be implemented
Absolutely.
than if not. And if you don't stop and ask those deeper questions, they don't get access to your full experience. They don't get access to your full knowledge. Therefore, they don't get access to the full service offering that you provide because you didn't have all the information. And it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's our fault that we didn't stop and ask more questions so that we can serve them at the highest level. So again, I think regardless of how much experience you have, how much knowledge you have, it's kind of irrelevant if you don't actually know the unique situation of your clients.
Right.
Because if you know what their unique experience is, guess what? Now you can take all that knowledge, all that experience you have, and match it up to really create a fantastic client experience for them. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
They're kind of missing out, and so are you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there, moving now kind of into some of these different types of buyers and clients in general, right? You've got people that are first-time home buyers.
Yep.
Are there a couple things that you would say you already know about them that an agent ought to kind of bring to the table, knowing maybe how they're feeling, what they're thinking, and adapt your process accordingly?
For sure. So first-time home buyer, right? It's I assume they know nothing about the process. Whether they do or not, I usually ask them, have you worked with another agent? Perhaps they've worked with another agent and they just didn't purchase. So it's kind of their second go around. which is happening a lot in this market because they get burnt out. They kind of need to start fresh, etc. But I still like to go through the actual logistical process, like from the time that we meet, what do I want to happen next? What do you need? And that kind of goes into like getting pre-approved, etc., all that fun stuff, right? But more than that, I would say like with a first-time home buyer, hand holding is extremely important, like extremely important. I sometimes feel like putting age, whether I'm older or they're older, whatever the case may be, I sometimes feel like I talk to them like they're kids, like kind of hand holding as much as possible. But then I think with first time home buyers, it's so emotional, right? And this year itself in 2021, I've honestly lost, i.e., paused a lot of my clients' searches, or they've pulled out of the market because they just got so emotionally driven by how competitive it is that they got burnt out. So now I've kind of like half year into it or almost full year into it. I've tweaked my first time home buyer conversation to remind them like, hey, you do what's comfortable. I will give you my thought on what I think this particular house is going to go for. This is what it's going to take to get it. Ultimately, you do you. I'm there to support you. I will take it at your pace. So if you want to dilly dally in the market and just kind of throw offers and see if it sticks kind of thing, sure. I'm going to tell you, you're probably not going to get a house, but I'm there for you still. Right. So that's kind of a lot of my first time home buyers, very, very emotionally driven. A lot of them do get burnt out in a market like this, and kind of one thing that I realize, I say this a lot now, is when I'm showing them houses, and an offer date is coming, we're throwing in an offer, I tell them, don't get your heart set on it. Really, really don't get your heart set on it. You're going to save yourself, you're going to save yourself those emotions. We're going to go all in. We're going to do the best we possibly can, but there are certain situations we can't control. Someone comes in 100 over asking, all cash. Ultimately, it's a business transaction, right? So you got to keep the emotions out of it. So that's my first time home buyer.
I love that. It's almost like giving the advice as a mom. Hey, this is a first date. You probably won't marry this one. Like,
right.
like let's not get our heart set on it. Let's wait till we get a little further down the road, until we start having those thoughts and feelings about this particular property. Like, it's just great insight so that your clients don't leave disappointed, right? So they don't feel like you failed them. No, you failed setting the right expectation. You didn't fail them.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And it's, the other day, I lost a move up buyer offer. Lost meaning I didn't get accepted. And they have a very unique situation. And there were 24 offers on this property listed at 2.3. I was at 3 million and didn't get it. Okay. No contingencies, the whole gamut, right? But the market's very interesting. You can't assume that you're overbidding $700,000 and you're going to get it. That's so crazy to digest, but that's reality. It's just crazy to digest that, but it's reality, right? And so you have to know you're doing the best you possibly can. And if you don't get it, honestly, it's a universe thing. It's not meant to be. It's there's, if you're coming in at 2.5 and it goes for 3, you're way off. That's just a financial thing. But if you're coming in super duper strong, comps are not supportive, but you really, really want this house, you're willing to push it. Those are my second time home buyers. They're willing to go in that's actually a very good second time home buyer mindset scenario where they're willing to push it. They're not scared of appraisal deltas like first time home buyers are. They're not afraid of, hey, if I have to put more down payment, or I'm going to go all in, they're not afraid of that. They've been a homeowner before. They've seen their first home appreciate 10x at this point, so they're okay. We don't have to go through that process with them. But where it gets challenging with the second time home buyer is the first time they bought, the market probably was not like this, right? So it's kind of like, wait, I got my first house so easily. Like, what's happening? The other thing is, as a second time home buyer, you have way more expectations of your second home. You want the beautiful lot. You potentially want a pool. You want the bedroom bath downstairs. You want all these great things. And so they just have higher expectations of a house. They're less emotional, I would say. They're not in a rush because they own a home, so they're not feeling like they're missing out. But their mindset is very different. They're less emotional, but they're going way all in.
Mhm.
They're ready to just jump it and get it. I have fewer second time home buyers or third time home buyers for that matter jump out of this kind of market than first time home buyers.
Interesting. So again, you
Yeah.
can come in. I think this is the principle that I want everybody to understand here. Is it depending upon what you know about these people as you come in, right?
Yeah.
How many transactions they've been a part of, what their
Right.
goals are, and then digging deeper as to how they're feeling about that, what their
Yeah.
strategy is. Now, again, you can adapt your energy, your process, your strategies, your conversations
Right.
to really to match where they're at. And I love how
Yeah.
you've kind of pinpointed what these two different buyer types are. Let's do the last one here in just a short amount of time that we have, which is investors, right? Totally different crowd.
Oh,
How
yep.
do you what changes for you when you're dealing with investors?
Oh, investors, gosh. Speaking from, and granted, I've been working with these three types of buyers for 17, 18 years now. But investors, 2021 has changed a lot. So my California investors, I mean, the cap rates, the rental income, the prices, really, none of it makes sense. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard dynamic because prices went up, rents went up, but not as much as prices. Um, I always tell my investors, whether I'm right or wrong, this might be an opinion based thing, but I don't think as an investor you should be competing with the first time home buyer pool when you're making an offer because you're dealing with two totally different types of people. One highly emotional, so they'll throw money at emotions to get a house. An investor shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. So for them, it shouldn't be an emotional decision. It should all boil down to numbers. So 2021 has changed the investor profile in California quite a bit. More people are doing multi-units in 2021 just to ramp up, cap rates and reflection, etc. Um, but the investor profile is, I keep the emotions out of it. And it's very driven. It's very analytical. A lot of my California clients have purchased out of state this year. So I have great partners, Utah, Texas, Florida. These are kind of like the key states. Actually, Oregon has been one too, but Oregon prices kind of got a little crazy. Um, and it's because the West Coast, a lot of Californians have moved up to where you are. So investor profile, very different, very numbers driven. I like to keep the emotions out of it. I recently told one of my past clients who has now purchased 4 homes through me, bought and sold type of scenarios, purchased an investment property through me about 3 years ago in California, now wants to do another. And I keep telling him like, hey, this is not the right one. This is not the right time. This is not the right area. And the other day he texted me saying, it's so funny that you're telling me this because wouldn't you love to sell a house? Well, of course I would.
Because you're looking at the numbers, right?
I'm looking at the numbers and I'm telling him like in 5 or 6 years, you're going to tell me why did I buy this investment property that numbers wise didn't make sense because the prices were so inflated for an investor. So now he's looking out of state at the moment, but so I'll help them. And ultimately, if they decide they want to play with these first time home buyer competitive offers, I'm there, like no problem. I'm not going to say no, but I want them to know that when you're an investor, don't look at it as an emotional decision.
Yeah, this is very numbers based. I love it. Great stuff, Kaajal. Let's let me go to the signature question of the show, which is like, what do you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to grow yourself? What does that look like for you?
Oh yeah, such a good question. So podcasts are huge, right? So in our business, the year one when I first started, my broker at the time, my mentor at the time, I still remember this. This was now 18, 19 years ago. He told me, this business is a very manic business. Like you could be amazing one month, right? You can close 20 homes in one month and do nothing for the rest of the year. You're going to feel great for that one month, and the rest of the year you're going to feel like, who am I? What am I doing? So keeping your mindset on point is so crucial. I can't express it enough. Like, so listening to these podcasts, so I love listening to yours. Listening to podcasts, I only listen to podcasts and Audible books. So Winning from Tim Grover is a huge favorite of mine. I'm on round 3 on Audible. It is so important. So I think that keeps me going. It
Yeah.
helps me think big, and then just reinventing yourself, right? I never used to do podcasts. It's kind of my, now it's like, for me, it's like totally fine. I never used to post on social media, but it kind of takes you to that next level. And I love to join those kind of social sort of avenues to make you feel like, okay, you're thinking big, but so are all these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do it together. So that's kind of what I do.
Good stuff, Kaajal. I love it. I want to thank you for joining in today, sharing your expertise around, again, getting into the mindset of your clients. And to all those listening today, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
And please give Kaajal some love. Kaajal, if they want to learn more about you and potentially refer business to you down in this in Silicon Valley, how would they do that? How would they contact you?
Absolutely. Go to my website, kajalshahani.com. Find me on Instagram, Kaajal Shahani Real Estate, Facebook, Kaajal Shahani. And in any of those ways, DM me, email me, text me. I'm around.
I love it. Awesome. And to everybody listening here today, my final request is this: go think bigger. Thanks again, Kaajal. Appreciate you very much.